I like flipped it up and it almost flew out of my hand because it slipped out of the dust jacket. Hello and welcome back, and welcome to my channel if you are new here. Today I'm going to be talking about my new self-destruct list for 2025. So if you are interested to know what books are on my list, then keep on watching. So I did this last year, and this was a good incentive for me to read books that I've had sitting on my shelf for so long, books that I forgot that I had, or books that I just kind of lost motivation to pick up. And it worked. I really had some great reads last year and books that made me go, wow, I wish I had read this sooner. So we're gonna try this again, and hopefully it works as well this time as it did last time. If you're not familiar with the concept of like a self-destruct list, this is basically a list of books that if I do not read them by the end of 2025, I will have to unhaul them unread. This is particularly painful because I do not like wasting money. So to unhaul a book that I spent my hard-earned paycheck on without having even read it is the worst kind of punishment. I also want to preface this list by saying that I do not put books on this list that were gifted to me because I would never want to waste someone else's money like that. It wouldn't be fair to them to have gone out of their way to spend their money on a book for me and then I unhaul it without having even read it. So there will not be any gifted books on this list. Jumping right in, the first book on this list is The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry. This is a mystery thriller suspense about a couple who desperately wants to have children, and one day a 6-year-old shows up at the hospital that they both work at, and they end up taking her home. And I'm not sure if they like formally or like officially adopt her, but they basically treat her as if she is their child. And the girl ends up getting really close with her new father, and then she starts, I guess, becoming manipulative and kind of like ices out the mom. When I first heard about this book, it was described as being similar to the movie Orphan, which is the reason why I was interested in picking this up and the reason why I bought it. I've had this on my TBR for a couple of years now, so I really need to get this read. Next is Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This is a YA romantasy, I think. This follows Jace, who is the new leader of the Ballinger Empire, and Kazi, who is a former street thief from a rival empire who is sent by the queen of her kingdom to investigate the Ballinger Empire. From what I gather, this is an enemies to lovers trope, and the synopsis said that they play a cat and mouse game of false moves and motives in order to fulfill their own secret missions. And that is really the part that intrigued me the most about this story. I'm hoping that they'll be playing like some mental chess with one another and trying to outsmart each other. I think this ended up on my TBR or like on my shelf because Haley Pham raved about this a while back, but then I never read it. It never seemed to fit any like convenient readathon prompt, and any prompts that it might have fit, the book was probably just too long for me to read it in the time frame that I had for the readathon, and thus it has just been collecting dust on my shelf ever since. Next we have Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. This is a contemporary fiction or like literary fiction book. I already talked about this in my February TBR video, which if you haven't seen that, go check that out. So I won't bore you or waste your time re-explaining what this book is about. Just know that this is on my self-destruct list, so hopefully I will be able to actually get to this in February so I can check this off my list. Next on the list is Playing with Matches by Hannah Orenstein. This is a contemporary romance that follows our main character Sasha, who is engaged to a finance bro and lands a job as a matchmaker working in New York City. Everything is going fine until her boyfriend betrays her, and then she like spirals out of control, and then she ends up somehow falling for one of her previous clients who was apparently off limits. I think this book ended up on my TBR or like on my shelf because Larry from Larry Reads talked about this book again a long time ago. The synopsis actually reminds me of Hitch, if Hitch were a woman, so it sounds like it could be kind of fun and funny, and I'm also just kind of curious to know like what did her finance bro boyfriend do and why is her ex-client off limits. Next is The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. This is another contemporary romance that follows Rosie and Lucas. Rosie has quit her well-paying job to become a romance writer, but now she has writer's block. And then to make matters worse, the ceiling of her apartment crumbled, and so she can't stay in her apartment, so she ends up using the spare key that she has to her best friend's apartment because her best friend is away on her honeymoon, and so she decides that she's going to stay there, only to learn that her best friend already lent her apartment to her cousin Lucas, and it just so happens that Rosie has a huge crush on Lucas and has been insta stalking him from afar. Lucas offers to help Rosie with her writer's block by taking her on a series of experimental dates to help inspire her writing, but my guess is that Rosie probably starts catching feelings, and unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for her, Lucas is only in town for 6 weeks. I believe this is also part of the same series as The Spanish Love Deception, which I have never read. I've heard pretty awful things about it, to be quite honest, so I don't have any interest in picking it up, but I love a romance story that follows a main character who's going on a series of really disastrous dates. And so this book sounds like it'll be right up my alley. The next book on the list is Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca or LaRocca. I never know how to say this author's last name. But this is a horror anthology. This is another book that I talked about in my February TBR. So again, go check that out if you want to hear more about it. But since I already talked about it in that video, I won't go into detail again. But all you need to know is that this is also on my self-destruct list, making it another book that I'm hoping that in February I'll be able to check it off the list. The next book on this list is Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. This is a comedic fantasy. The synopsis of this book sounds super chaotic, but I think that this is about the apocalypse. The date of Judgment Day, I think, has been pushed up, but there's a demon and an angel that don't want the rapture to happen for whatever reason, and then somewhere along the way someone misplaced the Antichrist, which I don't even know what that means. I've heard really great things about this book, but I started reading this like 2 years ago. Now that I think about it, I think this might have been on my TBR for the first Get a Clue readathon, and I've soft DNF'd this twice between then and now. But I do want to finish this. I do want to get through it, but with this being at this point my third attempt, if I do not finish it by the end of this year, I guess it just wasn't meant for me and I will have to unhaul it. Next is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. You may have heard me mention this in my video where I talked about authors that I wanted to read from for the first time in 2025. I will have that video linked down below in case you have not seen that. This is a horror mystery thriller about a group of final girls who are part of a support group, which you probably already guessed based on the title. But one of the girls goes missing one day, and now everyone is afraid that someone knows about the support group and is going to be coming for them one by one. I love a good slasher movie, and the synopsis of this book mentions that it is a tribute of sorts to movies like Texas Chainsaw and Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream. And if you know me, then you know that I'm obsessed with the Scream franchise, and I love a good slasher movie. So I have been very excited to get to this for a long time. Just every year I end up prioritizing other things for one reason or another, whether it's readathons or content, whatever, but I am determined to get to this book this year. And finally, the last book on this list is They'll Never Catch Us by Jessica Goodman. This is a YA mystery thriller about two sisters, Stella and Ellie, who are the cross-country stars at their school. A new girl comes to town, and when they learn that she was the top runner on her cross-country team at her old school, the sisters initially they feel pretty threatened by this. But then eventually I guess they become like friends with her, they build a connection with her, but they're all trying to get scouted, and so friendships can only go but so far. And then one day the new girl goes out for a training run and she never returns. No one knows what happened, but everyone suspects that the sisters had something to do with it. I don't remember why I got this book or like who I heard about this from, but I've had it for like 2 years, and so I haven't been moved to pick it up. So here we are. And those are all of the books that I have to read by the end of the year, or otherwise I have to unhaul unread. Hopefully I'll do just as well this time around as I did last time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know down below if there are any books that you have on your physical TBR that you are trying to prioritize in 2025. Also, if you made it this far into the video, drop the like exploding like collision emoji down below. Before you go, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you are not already subscribed. I'd love to have you as part of my channel. Let's see if the algorithm knows you as well as it thinks it does. Click here to see a video that for some reason YouTube thinks you're really gonna enjoy, or click here to see more bookish content from me, and click here to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell so that you are notified the next time I post a video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.